your host, Ibi. Episode 5 of the Ibi Show. And we've got a bumper packed show or evening filled with some amazing content that I'd like to take us through. But guys, before we get going, don't forget to hit the like button on this video. Don't forget to share it with your contacts. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe and ensure you hit the bell notification so that you're always informed when we're going live either with the Ibi show, the Shady show on a Wednesday, or any other content that we drop across YouTube, etc. So make sure you're doing all of the needful to stay in touch, in tune, and independent, as Abdul says. I really miss him when he's not here. So, the closest to get to Abdul is to kind of say some of the things that he says. So here goes in proper Abdul style. We're going to kick off with the Manchester United versus Wolves preview. And yes, I did say preview. That's a throwback to Abdul. Guys, obviously, it's the review, the Manchester United Wolves game. And what I'd like to start off with is, we've heard the stories about how bad they play, about the lack of energy, etc. But you'd swear that the game against Wolves got Manchester United relegated, not only from the Premier League, but from English football in its entirety. I think we've been kicked out of the Football League based on the Wolves results. And this is not coming from rival fans, but coming from Manchester United fans. So I think there's been a massive overreaction to the Wolves game. Yes, there's an expectation that we should have won it, and I agree. We are Manchester United. We're playing at Old Trafford, and you expect those players to step up. But when we look at Manchester United, are we looking at it with a lens of Manchester United during the Ferguson era? Or are we looking at the reality of this current Manchester United team? And unfortunately, this current Manchester United team, one, we know we can't trust them to be consistent and drive consistent performances. Two, their team it's a work in progress. We've seen them kind of go to the lowest of lows and sometimes have the highest of highs. But we know this team is a team currently under a work in progress with Ruben Amorim. So I expect these type of real results. A win at Liverpool, at Anfield, and then a draw with Wolves at Old Trafford. I'm not surprised by these type of performances. And the third thing that didn't surprise me about the result is we are a squad depleted. And I know people are going to say, yeah, but other teams have injuries, etc., etc. Yes, they do, but we can barely rely on our starting 11, let alone our bench. What does it look like when we now need to start relying on our reserves to come in? And there's been a lot of discourse, both on groups that I'm part of from a Manchester United perspective, but also on social media, the pundits, etc. And they say, Amorim is too negative and he's going in with a defensive mindset and he needs to play more attacking. Tell me how you would change the game on when the game that we played on Tuesday night. Was it Tuesday night? I think it was Tuesday night. The game we played on Tuesday night. How do you change the personnel? And don't tell me about the formation, because I think if you're having the argument about formation, I think that's just really lazy, and you're kind of picking up on the trolls across social media because I seen against Wolves where, yes, we started off with the five in the back, but like we've discussed multiple times on Gun to Old Trafford, this formation is a fluid formation and we move into different styles of formation during the game. So I seen during the game where we were set up as a 4-4-2. I seen times where we were actually a 3-5-2. At points, we were a 4-3-3. And I seen a lot of those movements. At one point, we were even playing as a 4-5-1. So, information is a lazy argument. And I think it's an easy argument because, the media kind of jump on the formation bandwagon, and then you get fans jumping on it. So I don't want to hear about formation. So drop into the comments. Let me know, how would you change the team Amorim sent out against Wolves from a personnel perspective to make sure that we have more hunger, more creativity, more whatever against Wolves? Because I don't see what changes could have been made. When I looked at the bench, what I saw was one first team player that could come on, which was Lenny Yoro. I seen a player that's been not available for Manchester United for the last 18 months, Malacia, on the bench. And if you kind of resorting to that, that kind of tells me a lot. And then I saw four graduates and two goalkeepers. So please explain to me how Amorim should have changed the team, should have changed the setup to ensure that we are playing more attacking or that we are changing things around. I'll wait. It's more difficult when the facts are laid out, right? Um, Another thing that I'd like to kind of touch on, and I think this is quite important, is when we look at Amorim, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a discourse about Amorim. There's certain things that he done during the game that baffles me, that baffles a lot of fans. But I think to just kind of hound on around the formation and the manager out, I think that's a lazy argument. And I think we as football fans have our own brains to think, and I think we shouldn't be swayed by what's being said on socials and what's being said by the media. I'll talk about Amorim and I'll talk about the academy graduates in the next two sections within this talk. I just want to run through the review quickly. Um, Obviously, we started off at Old Trafford, and you're expecting a little bit of an energy lift from Manchester United. I didn't see that lift come through the game. There were moments in the game where we looked strong, we looked like we should have scored. But just overall, from my perspective, there wasn't enough energy, there wasn't enough hunger, there wasn't enough drive, there wasn't enough of the Manchester United we all want us to be to get a result from Wolves. And no matter what formation we set ourselves up with, I don't think that would have made a difference around energy, hunger, commitment, etc. And Abdul can tell you when he's back on. As a coach, there's only certain things you can coach, but hunger, giving your all, motivation, determination to run and drive, that is to come from within. It can't be something that's coached, to a player. And the formation doesn't change how hungry you are, how committed you are, how much energy you want to bring to a game. A formation doesn't change that. So for me, I think this is something that's been lacking from this Manchester United squad and previous Manchester United squads post Sir Alex Ferguson. And I think that's something we need to get back. And I think what we've been doing over the last couple of windows with the recruitments that we're bringing in, the likes of Cunha, Imbuemo, Sheshko, uh, uh, Lemons, Dogu, etc. I think these players bring that hunger, that determination, etc. So I think we'll get back to that. So that was my first observation. I think that's what's lacking from this Manchester United team. The second thing that really disappointed me is how these players so easily give up. And let me expand on that a little bit. There were moments in the game where Xerxes, first of all, people are complaining about Xerxes coming off, and why. Xerxes didn't look like he wanted to be in that game. Yes, he scored the goal, but from the moment we got out, it looked like people had to motivate him to play. And I think his head is spun. I think he's heading out of the door in January, and I think Roma is the destination for him. And I think it's beneficial to all parties if Xerxes just leaves Manchester United at this point, because I see a player in him, but I don't see a player willing to fight and drive for his position. So I think the quicker we get rid of him and the quicker we get a replacement in, I think will be better for all parties involved. So that's the first observation. The second observation, Benjamin Sheshko, he is seriously struggling um, with confidence. And you can see it, it's clear. I mean, I was a striker, obviously not at that level, but Abdul can tell you as well, when you don't have the confidence to be able to drive forward and to take those half chances, I think even the easy chances look difficult. And there were three or four opportunities for Sesko in the game to take it away. And that kind of leads to my second observation. Manchester United do not take our chances when we are in a position of dominance. And that happened throughout the game against Wolves, where we had opportunities and unfortunately, we don't take our opportunities and it comes back to bite us later on. And it comes back to bite us later on. So that's the second observation. And I think Sesko is part of the second observation because we need his confidence to be back in order for Manchester United to be able to drive forward. The third observation that really worked on my nerves is the discussion about formation. Because even with five at the back, Wolves still created chances at will. And had it not been for Lemons or Lamens, we would not be talking about a draw that seems so catastrophic. We'd be talking about a Manchester United loss against Wolves. And I think this is something that we need to keep an eye on as well. That it's not just about the motivation or the formation of our players, but also the amount of chances we give away to the opposition and we allow that. And there's out of this, there's two things that I saw. One is our defensive line is lacking confidence. And two, we allow players to run at us. We don't close the spaces quickly enough. So in the first half of the field, where we have those hard runners and those players, we press really high. But in defense, we allow the opposition to run onto us. And this is how Morgan Rogers scored both goals against us. We allowed him to run onto us. This is how we conceded so many chances against Newcastle and against Lemons had to pull us out. And again, against Wolves, we don't close the runs. We don't see the runs behind us. And I think that's kind of coming back to haunt us a little bit from a Manchester United perspective. And then the final observation from the game is we're just not clinical enough. And when you're not clinical, I think that comes back to haunt you and really impacts how you move forward. So my standout player for the game has to be Lemons and Patrick Dogo. I know he's been coming under a lot of pressure, but Patrick Dogo has shown, after Amorim's talk about him, he's put his head down, worked hard, and kind of drove forward. So yeah, the Manchester United versus Wolves at Old Trafford, not the result we wanted, not the best game that I witnessed of Manchester United. Most probably one of the worst that I've watched from them. But it's not the end of the world. It's 1 point. We've drawn the game, but we still there and thereabout. And we put our head down. We look forward to Sunday against Leeds, and we move forward from there. So, yeah, that's my review of Manchester United versus Wolves at Old Trafford. 1-1, the scoreline. Could have been worse, could have been better, but we end where we are, and we close the year on not a high note, not on a extremely low note, but on a bit of a somber note. But let's hope that 2026 brings a lot more for this Manchester United team. So that's it for the first section of the discussion. The second section, and I'm not going to spend too much time on here, is Ruben Amorim the right man for Manchester United? Drop into the comments. Let us know what you think. Ruben Amorim has shown since he's come into Manchester United that he has a particular style that he wants to play. And I believe that with the right personnel and given the right amount of time and going into the transfer windows and being backed by the board, I think within the next 12 to 18 months, Ruben Amorim's team will look completely different to what it looks today. And I think it will be a team that will allow us to compete for Premier Leagues, allow us to compete for Champions Leagues, and get back to the highs of what we are used to from a Manchester United team. And I think time is important. And since this is getting to Old Trafford, I'd like to draw some parallels to Arsenal. And I know a lot of people give stick to Arteta a lot of the time around, oh, what he's won, and he hasn't won much and he needs to win. But what Arteta was given was time by the Kronkers. And what that has created over the last, what, 6, 7 seasons is he's created a culture that is strong within that Arsenal changing room. He's created a style of play that everybody understands how Arsenal plays, and he's created a mentality amongst the players that they feel that they can win any game that they play, and they go out and give their all, and they don't care who the opposition is. And I think this is what he's fostered over the last couple of seasons. And again, a really lazy argument around trophies, because I think he's built a really good platform, and now we're seeing Arsenal really being able to push forward and push for the titles. And now it's about just tweaking the squad, getting the right type of players in to enhance the squad and take them forward. And I think if he gets the right players in, like a Rafael Leao or a Rodrigo, I think those are players that will just, enhance and uplift this Arsenal team and give them a good push towards the end of the season. And I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal come away with the double this season, the Premier League and the Champions League. I wouldn't be surprised. And again, I think this is down to the club giving him time, trusting the process, understanding the style of football that he wants to play, and bringing in the right personnel to suit that style of football. And I think this is what's needed for Ruben Amorim. He needs time. We need to back his system, and we need to get in the players to be able to play in the system. Because if one of those three elements are not there, then get rid of him now, because you're wasting your time and you're wasting Ruben Amorim's time if you're not able to support him across those three pillars. Again, something that tells me Ruben Amorim is the right man for the job. He is not somebody who flip flops. He's somebody who sticks to his principles, sticks to his guns. And yes, it might seem stubborn, but I think there's a lot going on in the background at Manchester United that we aren't privy to. And I trust Amorim, based on what I've seen at Sporting, on how he's kind of grown the team, the struggles he went through, and what he's done with the club. I think, given the time, the personnel, and the opportunity to be able to play a certain style of football, I think Ruben Amorim will bring the glory days back to Manchester United. The final thing on Ruben Amorim is a lot of people are talking about his win ratio, etc. But I think, again, I think football fans today believe football was only invented in 2020. But luckily, we grew up in the golden generation of football. And I was privileged enough to watch the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson manage, Jose Mourinho, Arsene Wenger, etc. And with Sir Alex Ferguson, when he came to Manchester United in the early years, he struggled. Why? Because he needed to do the same things that Ruben Amorim needs to do now. They need to change the culture of the club, and Amorim is doing that slowly. So Ferguson did that, Amorim needs to do it. Ferguson needed to get rid of a certain amount of players. Amorim is busy getting rid of a certain amount of players. Ferguson needed to bring in new players. Amorim needs to be back to be able to bring in the right type of players. And I guarantee you, had we had social media back in the days, in the late 80s, when Sir Alex Ferguson was struggling, I believe that there would have been a lot of calls for Sir Alex Ferguson to be sacked and not given the time, because we live in a time where instant gratification is what we all want. The quick dopamine hits on TikTok and on socials, etc., and we want that to translate through to our football. And that's not how you grow a winning mentality. That's not how you grow a successful football club. So, people talk about Ruben Amorim's win ratio at about 30%. I was doing some reading, and do you know Sir Alex Ferguson's win ratio the first couple of seasons was around 30%, 30 to 35%, if not, there and thereabouts. So stats can tell a story that you want it to tell. But I honestly believe that Ruben Amorim is the right man for the job. I believe Ruben Amorim needs time. I believe Ruben Amorim needs to be back, and I believe that given the time, given the backing, Ruben Amorim can bring Manchester United back to the glory days. We move on to the next phase, and this is talking about our academy graduates. There's been a lot of talk over the last couple of weeks that Amorim doesn't trust the youth. Amorim needs to have more faith in the youth, and Amorim needs to play the youth more, especially now that we have an injury crisis. And I think people think that will just be the golden bullet that changes everything, but it doesn't work that way. Academy football is very, very different to top tier Premier League football. And if you can't understand it, I'm sorry, your knowledge of football and your knowledge of the game is at a very intermediate phase. And I don't think you should be part of the discourse when it comes to the academy graduates playing. And I'll tell you why. People kind of bring parallels back to Sir Alex Ferguson of, he did it with kids. Yes, he did it with kids, the class of 92, but they were surrounded by great players, professionals, hard-working players, people that played for the bench, people that ran, and we had maestros like Eric Cantona, etc., around the squad. Whereas this Manchester United team don't have those players. And when you throw the youth in, you see them struggle. And what happens when they struggle? They get abused on the socials. They get abused in the chat groups. They get abused by the media. And their confidence gets hit, their ability to be able to play a free game is impacted. And I honestly believe that throwing in youngsters into this Manchester United team and expecting miracles does more harm than good to their careers. The likes of Jack Fletcher, the likes of Shea Lacey, the likes of Chido Obi, those players are going to be great players. Kobe Mainu, but we live in a time where again instant gratification is the highlight, and we always want that instant wins, and nobody is willing to work for their time. Nobody's willing to give these kids time to develop and grow into the players that we know that they can become. And I think, we as Manchester United fans have done a massive disservice to our academy graduates by trying to throw them into these games, thinking they're going to be the answer, but in turn doing more damage to their careers than actually helping them grow. And I think we really need to look at that. And I think, Toby Collier is coming back to Manchester United. We recalled him from a loan. And while a lot of people are happy that Collier is coming back, I'm caught in two minds. Not because I don't like Collier. I think he's a really good player. And I think he's going to be a baller for Manchester United in the future. And I think he can really bet his position down. I think the problem is he's brought in because of the injury crisis that we have, but the moment the injury crisis is resolved, or if we bring in new players, the rest of his season is going to be Toby Collier on the bench, Toby Collier not getting enough minutes, Toby Collier not sharpening his pencil, away on loan and growing his team, growing his capabilities. And I think that's going to be a massive problem for Toby Collier. I hope I'm proven wrong, but I honestly feel that it's not going to help him coming back from this loan from West Bromwich Albion. So, guys, that's my small 2 cents on the academy and how I think Manchester United really need to jump in. And I think this is a nice segue into the transfer window. What's very clear is that Manchester United need to dip into this transfer window and strengthen the squad. But we all know that the Glazers are rats. They are there to siphon as much money as they can out of Manchester United. So I'm not holding my breath on this team kind of strengthening in the summer. I mean, in the January transfer window. We are short in midfield, and it's clear for everyone to see. One injury to Bruno, and our creativity is gone. one injury to Mainu, and we don't have any backup to play against Casimiro. Casimero's legs are tire out in the 60th minute. No one to bring on for Casimiro. We need to look into one of the youngsters to bring on. And I think this is a travesty for a club like Manchester United to be relying on that to drive things forward. So uh, I honestly believe that we need to strengthen in midfield. We need another striker up front to work with Benjamin Sesko to relieve some of the pressure and some of the stress on him. And we also need another strong right wing back that, right or left wing back that allows the likes of Dogu to then consistently perform on one side and, move Dallo to the bench or at least give him time out of the team. So the transfer window is really important, and I think that's something that we really need to focus on. The next and probably the last piece, before I just talk a little bit about Maresca. I know it's not Manchester United related, but I think it's important for the football world, is AFCON. And I'm not going to talk a lot about the AFCON. I just want to kind of touch on Manchester United, Bafana versus Cameroon, which is going to be a cracker tomorrow, Friday, the 2nd of January. Bafana playing against Cameroon in the round of 16. Hopefully, Bafana gets one over Cameroon, and that allows the likes of Brian Mbeumo to be sent back to Manchester United early to help us with our injury crisis, and also maybe opens up the possibility of us signing Carlos Baleba from Brighton if the opportunity arises. So for me, hoping for Bafana win tomorrow. Looking forward to Apollos doing a lot more damage on the wings like he's been doing in the last couple of games, and Lyle Foster to kind of get onto the score sheet again. So, I've seen Bafana play much better football than they have played during this AFCON, leading up to the AFCON. But maybe the best is still to come, and I think if we get one over Cameroon, we could possibly go all the way um, and actually bring this AFCON home. And like I've said in other streams, this Bafana team, kind of brings back a bit of that nostalgia from the '96 team. Not in terms of the style of play or the quality of players, but in terms of the belief that we have a football team that can really drive forward and do things for us. And I think a little bit more spice, in this Bafana versus Cameroon game is that the last time, I think it was the last time Cameroon won the AFCON, a certain Hugo Bruce was the manager or coach of Cameroon at the time. So it will be good to see him kind of get one over his own team and kind of take Bafana to the quarterfinals, where we hopefully able to, do what we did in South Africa to Morocco a couple of seasons or a couple of years ago. So yeah, looking forward to that game. Guys, drop into the comments, let us know what you think about Bafana versus Cameroon. But some mouth-watering fixtures in the AFCON round of 16. We'll drop it on Gunning to Old Trafford, so please drop a like on the content so that you can keep up to date with what's happening during the AFCON. Finally, a bit of a bombshell dropped this afternoon. Well, not so much a bombshell. Maresca and Chelsea have parted ways by uh, you know, mutual consent or mutual agreement. If this was a marriage, we say that they've got all of the talaqs, all of the divorces all in one go. I seen somebody say that in one of the groups, and I thought it was kind of funny. So yeah, immediate effect. We knew something was cooking after the Bournemouth game where Maresca didn't pitch up for the post-match conference. And just to give you a little bit insights on it, there's three reasons that's been spoken about as to why Maresca and Chelsea have parted ways. Two, more the club having concerns about Maresca, but one that Maresca is also having around the club. The first one is the results. Obviously, Chelsea's results haven't been great. Chelsea have only won one of the last 7 games, and I think they've dropped something like 20 points from winning positions this season across the Premier League and the Champions League. So that's obviously caused frustration in the boardroom at Chelsea, and that's one of the reasons why they're also looking to get rid of Maresca. Then, from a Maresca standpoint, he's been having issues around authority over players coming back from injuries and when he can play them and how many minutes he can give them. The Chelsea hierarchy have given full authority to the medical team to determine when a player is fully fit to come back and how many minutes that players can play. And no Chelsea manager can overrule that. And I think that's caused some frustration from Maresca because he's not able to play the players he wants to and give them the amount of time that he wants to give them on the field. And then finally, I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the fact that Maresca has been kind of talking to other clubs around a potential move in the summer. And for the information that's out there is that he's been talking to the likes of Juventus to move to the Serie A or become a successor to Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. And I think that didn't sit well with the Chelsea hierarchy because they feel like, he's openly flaunting the idea that he wants to leave Chelsea in the summer. And I think they've come to a decision that this situation won't be good for anybody over the next 6 months if Maresca stays. It won't be good for Maresca. It won't be good for Chelsea. It won't be good for the players. And I think they've come to an agreement where they part ways. Maresca is now free to go and look for other opportunities while Chelsea are able to really drive things forward. So yeah, that's it from the EB show, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Drop into the comments. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. And before we go, just thoughts and prayers out to Anthony Joshua, who met up in a serious accident. We hope he recovers really well. And to his two friends that passed on, we wish them all the best in the year after and ease to their family. And our condolences goes out to everyone associated with Anthony Joshua and his family members or his friends that have sadly passed away during that car accident. So, guys, we're ending on a bit of a somber note. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and with that, we are done it all.